Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today, all about Yoga Nidra. I'm guessing you're probably familiar with meditation already, but Yoga Nidra is sometimes called yogic sleep. It takes meditation to like a whole other level. It's all about deep rest and rejuvenation, and the best part is you do it lying down. We're going to explore why this kind of rest is so important today, especially for women, and how Yoga Nidra can be the key to unlocking that rest. We've got some really interesting sources here that dive into the science behind rest, like how it connects to our brain waves and our natural cycles, and even the link between a lack of rest and inflammation. Plus, we'll unpack this interesting concept of the feminine highway and how it relates to feeling grounded. But first, I want to introduce our expert who's here to help us understand the five bodies of awareness addressed in Yoga Nidra.
It's great to be here. And you're right, those five bodies, the physical energy, mental wisdom, and bliss bodies, they're really key to understanding how Yoga Nidra works. You can think of them as these interconnected layers of your being.
Okay, so it's more than just relaxing your physical body then?
Yeah.
What would be like an example of one of these other bodies being like out of whack? And how does Yoga Nidra help with that?
Sure. So let's take the mental body as an example. Imagine your mind's just racing with to-do lists and worries, right? That's a huge sign of imbalance. Yoga Nidra helps you quiet all that mental chatter and access a deeper state of awareness.
So it's not just about zoning out in front of the TV, it's about intentionally shifting into a different mental state. That's interesting. Our sources mention that women especially struggle with rest. Something like 24% of women haven't woken up feeling rested in the past week. That's crazy.
It is a bit concerning, and it ties back into that sympathetic nervous system always being on in our busy culture, right? This constant state of stress can lead to burnout, and it can even contribute to inflammation, which we know women are more prone to.
Yeah. And we're always hearing messages about self-care, but it's always about doing more, like workouts or green smoothies or whatever. But what about just resting, like truly resting?
Exactly. That's where the magic of Yoga Nidra comes in. It's like a shortcut to activating your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. It actually shifts your brain waves, slowing them down from that busy beta state to alpha, theta, and even delta, which is associated with deep sleep.
That explains why they say 45 minutes of Yoga Nidra can feel like 3 hours of sleep. Is there any like science behind that?
There is. Studies have shown that during Yoga Nidra, brainwave activity shifts to those slower frequencies, like I mentioned. And these slower brainwave states allow for some serious deep restoration and cellular repair. So that's probably why people report feeling so refreshed after a session.
Wow, that's really fascinating. I've always been kind of intrigued by the whole idea of intention setting. What is it about Yoga Nidra that makes intentions set during the practice so powerful?
You know how when you plant a seed in fertile soil, it grows better? Well, during Yoga Nidra, you're entering the state of deep relaxation where your subconscious mind is more receptive. It's like the soil of your mind is ready. And that's when those intentions can really take root and flourish.
That makes total sense. So it's not just about wishful thinking. It's about tapping into a deeper level of awareness where those intentions can actually manifest.
Exactly. And sometimes in this deep state, you might even receive what we call soul whispers. These are intuitive messages or insights that kind of bubble up from your subconscious. They can be really powerful guides.
Like Margaret's story, right? She used the intention, I am safe. And she had this really profound shift, even in her relationship with her mother. That's so powerful how a simple intention can have such a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And this actually brings us to another powerful aspect of Yoga Nidra, the concept of holding opposites.
Holding opposites. I'm curious about that. What does that even mean? Is it like trying to force yourself to feel happy when you're sad?
No, not at all. It's more about acknowledging that life is full of these contrasting experiences, like joy and sorrow, fear and courage, darkness and light. Holding opposites is about finding a space within yourself where you can hold those contrasting feelings without judgment.
So instead of trying to suppress or deny difficult emotions, you learn to kind of embrace the complexity of your experience. That sounds really liberating.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that those seemingly opposite forces are actually interconnected. They're both essential parts of a balanced whole. And through that acceptance, we can truly find peace.
So you're not trying to like eliminate the darkness, but to find a way to hold both the darkness and the light. That's a pretty profound shift in perspective.
It really is. You can think of it like the fear and trust dynamic during childbirth. There's this immense fear, right? But there's also this deep trust in the body's innate wisdom. Holding opposites allows us to navigate those intense experiences with more grace and resilience.
This reminds me of Monique's story. She used this technique to find peace within herself, even though her relationship with her mother remained really difficult. It's a good reminder that we can't always control external circumstances, but we can find a sense of peace inside.
Exactly. And that inner peace is the foundation for true transformation. It's like we're embarking on a hero's journey, facing challenges, delving into the depths of ourselves, and ultimately emerging stronger and more aligned with our true nature.
Okay, so Yoga Nidra is more than just relaxation then. It's like this pathway to self-discovery and personal growth. I'm starting to see how all these concepts connect. But what about the more practical side of things? Where does breath work come into play?
Breath work is super important. We hold so much tension in our bodies, often without even realizing it. And conscious breathing techniques, like the ones used in Yoga Nidra, can help release that tension and bring your nervous system back into balance.
So it's not just about taking deep breaths, it's about using the breath as a tool to regulate your nervous system and cultivate a sense of vitality.
Exactly. It's amazing how something as simple as conscious breathing can have such a profound impact on our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. It's like hitting the reset button for your entire system.
That's incredible. This is all so fascinating. I'm really excited to learn more about the specifics of how Yoga Nidra works and how we can actually integrate it into our lives.
Me too. In the next part, we'll explore some of the practical aspects of Yoga Nidra, including specific techniques and tips for creating your own rest cave, a dedicated space for nurturing your well-being and deepening your practice.
That sounds amazing. Stay tuned because we're just getting started on this journey of deep rest and self-discovery. Welcome back. I'm so ready to get into like the more practical side of Yoga Nidra. We've talked about all the amazing benefits, but how do we actually get started? Like, what are the first steps?
Well, the good news is Yoga Nidra is very accessible. You don't need any fancy equipment or years of meditation experience. Just find a quiet space where you can lie down comfortably. Literally no pretzel poses needed.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'm picturing myself all cozy with like blankets and pillows, but do I need like a teacher or can I just kind of do it on my own?
There are tons of guided meditations online and through apps. Those can be a great starting point. You can explore different voices and styles and see what you like best.
Ah, okay. So like those meditation apps are actually useful for something. That's good to know. I remember our sources mentioned something called a touchstone. What is that and like how does it fit into the practice?
Yeah, so a touchstone is basically just a physical object that you choose to hold during your practice. It could be like a smooth stone, piece of jewelry, anything that feels meaningful to you. It just helps you stay grounded and present, especially if your mind tends to wander.
Oh, okay. So it's like an anchor to bring you back if you start thinking about your to-do list. I get it. And what about those soul whispers? Is there anything we can do to be more receptive to those intuitive messages during Yoga Nidra?
Definitely. Approaching the practice with a sense of curiosity and openness is key. Don't try to force anything or overthink it. Just be present with whatever comes up. Sometimes the messages will come as clear thoughts or images. Other times it might be a subtle feeling or just a knowing.
So it's about quieting the mind and trusting that inner wisdom to emerge. That's a good one. It makes me think of that saying, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. But even with a quiet mind, daily life can still feel pretty overwhelming. How do we maintain that sense of peace when we're in the middle of all the chaos?
That's where the concept of a rest cave comes in. It's a dedicated space just for you, for relaxation and rejuvenation. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a corner of your bedroom, a comfy chair, anywhere you feel safe and at ease.
Ooh, I love that. A rest cave. It sounds like a sanctuary, a place to escape the demands of the world and reconnect with yourself. Do you have any tips for creating a rest cave?
Think about things that soothe your senses. Soft lighting, calming scents like lavender or chamomile, maybe some gentle nature sounds or instrumental music. It's about creating an environment that signals to your body and mind that it's time to relax and let go.
Like a spa experience, but at home.
That's awesome.
Right.
What about rituals? Are there any specific rituals that can enhance the practice? Rituals can definitely be really powerful. You might light a candle, set an intention, or simply take a few deep breaths to signal that you're transitioning into your rest cave. It helps to create a sense of sacredness and intentionality.
Yeah, those small acts would make a big difference for sure. And speaking of shifting your mindset, I'm really curious about the idea of saying yes and no from a more grounded and embodied place. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so as women, we're often conditioned to put other people's needs before our own, right? And Yoga Nidra helps us reconnect with our bodies and listen to our own inner wisdom. Learning to feel those yeses and nos in your body can be incredibly empowering.
Ugh, I feel that so much. So often we override those gut feelings, especially when it comes to saying no. Like we're afraid of disappointing people or being seen as selfish.
Exactly. But when you start honoring your own yeses and nos, you set healthy boundaries and you make choices that truly align with your needs and your desires. And that is the recipe for authentic living.
That's a powerful reminder. But let's be real. Unlearning those old patterns can be tough. It's like we've been programmed to please others, even at the expense of our own well-being.
It is definitely a practice, not a quick fix.
Hmm.
Be patient with yourself and start by noticing those subtle body sensations, like a tightening in your chest or a sinking feeling in your gut. Those are cues that you might need to reassess a situation.
So basically, we're retraining ourselves to listen to our inner compass. Like we've been given this incredible guidance system, but we've forgotten how to use it.
Yeah.
And as we become more attuned to our bodies, I imagine that starts to impact other areas of our lives too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you prioritize your well-being, you naturally make choices that support that. Getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, engaging in activities that bring you joy.
Mhm.
It's this beautiful positive feedback loop.
I love that. A positive feedback loop. It's like creating a ripple effect of well-being that extends outward into every part of your life.
Exactly. And it all comes back to those 5 bodies of awareness we talked about earlier. Yoga Nidra helps us nurture each of those layers. Physical energy, mental wisdom, and bliss. It creates this foundation for balance and harmony.
It's like we're tending to our inner garden, making sure that each plant gets the sunlight and nourishment it needs to thrive. But with all this talk of self-care and inner peace, do we ever get to dream big again? I feel like as adults, we can lose touch with that childlike sense of wonder and possibility.
You bring up a great point. Imagination is essential. It's the spark that ignites creativity and allows us to envision new possibilities. And you know what? Yoga Nidra can actually help us reconnect with that playful, imaginative part of ourselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how do we actually tap into that? Do we need to visualize rainbows and unicorns during our practice?
It can be that playful.
Yeah.
But one powerful exercise is to connect with what we call your gold. This is the wisdom and insights that you've gained through your Yoga Nidra practice. Think about a song or a piece of music that represents that essence for you.
Okay, I have my song in mind.
Now what? Let the music guide you. Feel the emotions it evokes. Notice the images or words or phrases that come to mind. It's like using music as this key to unlock your subconscious mind.
This is starting to sound like a creativity workshop.
Yeah.
I love how Yoga Nidra blends these different elements, relaxation, self-awareness, and now even creative exploration.
And from those insights, you can start to craft your big dream statements.
Yeah.
These are clear, actionable goals that align with your heart's desires and the wisdom that you've unearthed.
It's like we're creating a vision board for our lives, but one that's deeply rooted in our authentic selves, not just superficial desires. This is so cool.
And remember, it's not about creating some rigid plan. It's about setting an intention, planting a seed, and trusting the process to unfold.
I'm definitely sensing a theme of trust here, trusting our bodies, trusting our intuition, trusting the journey.
Trust is essential. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. You have the support of your inner wisdom, that council of women we talked about, and the infinite creative potential of the universe.
I love that image of having a council of wise women supporting us. It's so beautiful. And a great reminder that we're not alone, that we have resources and support to draw upon. But what happens when we step out of our rest cave and back into the real world? How do we integrate these practices into our daily lives?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. We'll delve into practices that help you stay grounded and connected to your inner wisdom, even when life gets busy. And we'll touch upon the power of telling your story as a way to inspire and empower others.
I can't wait to hear more. Stay tuned for the final part of our exploration into the transformative power of Yoga Nidra.
Welcome back to our deep dive on Yoga Nidra. It's been so interesting learning about all this. I'm excited to hear more about how to actually make this a part of my life. It's one thing to feel those benefits when you're in your rest cave, but how do we keep that sense of peace when we're out in the real world dealing with everything? It's true. The real magic happens when we start to weave these practices into our daily lives. Remember that touchstone we talked about? That could be a really powerful tool for grounding yourself throughout the day.
Oh, yeah. So instead of just using it during meditation, we could keep it with us as a reminder to pause and reconnect.
Exactly. Keep it in your pocket or on your desk. And when you feel that stress creeping in, take a moment to hold it. Feel the texture, the weight. Let it bring you back to the present moment.
It's like a little mini meditation on the go.
Yeah.
I like that. And what about rituals? Can those help us stay intentional even outside of our rest cave?
Rituals can be great anchors. You could create a morning ritual with a few minutes of deep breathing, or maybe a gratitude practice, or it's a simple bedtime ritual to signal to your body and mind that it's time to wind down.
I love that bookending the day with those intentional moments. That's a great idea. Our sources also mentioned something about a self-assessment. What is that and how does it work?
It's pretty simple, but really effective for staying in tune with your well-being. Just ask yourself these 3 questions regularly. How did you sleep last night? What's your energy level like today? And how are you feeling overall?
Those seem like such basic questions, but I guess it would really help you pinpoint areas that need some attention.
Exactly. It's about being proactive instead of reactive. If you notice you're always feeling drained or you haven't slept well in a while, that's a sign to maybe adjust your routine and prioritize some self-care.
It's like a check engine light for your well-being. I like that analogy. And speaking of well-being, I want to go back to that concept of yes and no for a second. It was such a powerful realization that we can actually feel those in our bodies. How do we get better at recognizing those sensations and making choices that really align with what we need?
It takes practice. Start by paying attention to those subtle sensations. If a commitment or a request fills you with dread, that's a no from your body. If it feels expansive and energizing, that's a yes.
So basically, we're learning to trust our gut feelings. But it's so easy to get caught up in logic and overthinking, especially when it comes to saying no.
That's why the practice of Yoga Nidra is so valuable. It helps quiet all that mental chatter and allows you to tap into that deeper wisdom. Remember, setting boundaries and honoring your needs is not selfish. It's an act of self-care.
And self-care is actually good for everyone around us, too, because it allows us to show up as our best selves, more present and engaged in our relationships and our work. But, beyond just taking care of ourselves, our sources also talk about the importance of sharing our stories.
Absolutely. Telling our stories is so powerful. It's an act of healing and connection. When we share our experiences, we create a sense of shared humanity, and we give other people permission to do the same.
That's so true. It's a good reminder that we're not alone in our struggles and our triumphs. But, vulnerability can be scary. How do we overcome that fear of sharing our stories?
Remember, it's not about perfection or having this perfectly polished message. It's about authenticity and connection. Start small. Share with a trusted friend or family member first.
Yeah, build up that trust and courage gradually. This deep dive has been incredible. We've learned so much about Yoga Nidra and its potential. It's so much more than just relaxation. It's a path to self-discovery, healing, and empowered living.
It really is. And as we wrap up today, we want to leave you with this final thought.
Yeah.
What would it look like to live as your most authentic, well-rested self? What big dreams might become possible if you allowed yourself to embrace the power of deep rest?
That's such a powerful question. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of deep rest and self-discovery. Remember, you are worthy of rest. You are capable of transformation.